Alrighty, today we're back working on a CRV, little Honda, and it has AC problems today. So right now I have it in a vacuum, running a little vacuum pump here. But earlier, when I first hooked my gauges to it, I only hooked my low side up because the lady that owns the car said she had no Freon in it. She had released it, had a shop release it all out, the low side. But when I hooked up my gauges, which I'll show y'all a picture in a minute, I was pulling a vacuum on the low, and it wasn't quite getting 30, which you're not gonna get 30, but 29. And didn't seem to be leaking, but I couldn't get it really to pull where I wanted it. So I was thinking maybe a leak. So I went ahead and hooked up the high side, just check, make sure, pull the vacuum from both. And as soon as I hooked to the high, my gauge popped up to 100 on the high side. So right there, I knew there was an issue with some restriction going on with this thing. So, there's a couple places that can cause a restriction. Some cars have orifice tubes and some have expansion blocks. This particular model has expansion block, which is located right back at the firewall back there behind the motor. A little tight to get to, but not too bad. There's a 10 millimeter holds it on there. And then it should be behind there, should be a couple hex head bolts that hold the expansion valve on, and that's where it creates a liquid to a gas into high pressure. So you have to have the liquid for the cooling side for the evaporator, and then the comes back as a gas, a hot gas, and goes out your expansion block and runs to your front condenser, and it cools the gas down and returns and repeats the cycle. So anyway, we're going to see how hard it is to change this thing today. I don't know if there's any videos on it or not, but all my years of working on AC, I would say a restriction of that much, 100-pound difference, it would be definitely expansion block or an orifice tube if equipped with. This one has an expansion block. Some of them have orifice tubes that'll be set in your low side with a little screen, you pull them out. But anyway, this one's the expansion block. So we're going to see how hard it is to get out. Now, this is a 2008, okay? So Honda, and we're going to see how it goes. Okay, I have pulled down a vacuum on both sides, high and low, pulling from both. So I have my knobs on. So we're going to tighten the high side first, shut it off, and we're going to watch this. Let's see here. Let's turn both of them off. So now I'm not vacuuming anymore. So we're going to watch this for a few minutes, see if it loses any vacuum. And if it does, then there could be a leak in the system. But I don't think that's the problem, being that it had 100 PSI on this baby. So what we're going to do is that expansion block, I think that's the culprit. I'm going to get a 10 millimeter on it, turn the vacuum off, and we'll go from there. Try to remove this expansion block. Haven't done one on one of these little cars like this in a while, but shouldn't be too hard. Hardest part will be working it out of there once we get the lines loose. Let's see, it's gonna be a booger here. Ain't not never easy, is it? There we go. Now I'm doing this with a 1/4-inch ratchet. You might want to use. Feels like it's loose. Let's see if I can work it by hand. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. hopefully I'll be able to pull these back. If I can't, I'm gonna have to loosen some of these brackets over here. We're gonna see. I always like to kind of check things before I get too deep into loosening a bunch of stuff up. One thing you don't want to lose is this little nut here, because we'll need it when we put the new one back in. I'll put it over here, right there. Now, let's see something. You got a bracket here, goes to your power steering. It's not really in my way. Not sure. May have to loosen a bracket over here. And then maybe the high side. Let's just see. So let me, I got it in a vacuum still. I'm gonna release this vacuum real quick, guys. And we'll be good. Okay. Believe it or not, that little bit of vacuum can hold that booger in place and give you a headache. So now I've released the vacuum. We've got no charge in the system at all. I think I'm gonna remove this bracket over here. Let me see, that's a 10. On the low side, there's a bracket right here on the left side of the motor by the strut frame. I'll show you guys this in here in just a second. So, yeah, I think I can see it in the video now. I have my camera set up with a new prop. So see how this is loose? Now I can work it back a little bit better. Let's look on the high. Yeah, it's kind of snug on that high. So let's see what I need to do to get a little slack in it. Looks like it pops into a clip right here. Let's see. See if I can move it out of that clip. You don't want to pull on it too hard. There we go. So now let's see if it'll move. See, I got a little bit of play in it now. So we got play here, play on the high side, because you don't want to bend your lines. And look at there. See how it popped loose? And we're going to pop it, pull it off of the stud. A little stud, I took that nut off of the expansion valve. We're going to take it off. There we go. Now that wasn't too bad. Doesn't leave me a lot of room to work in there, so I'm going to move this down just a hair. Just let it sit right there. So now, if you can see in here, right here, there's two little hex bolts. I'm gonna have to go get my set, and we'll get that baby out of there and see what's going on. How about that? All right, I did notice something that where that first nut was, you have to take that stud off here with a 10mm deep. You're gonna need a 10mm deep. So anyway, I've loosened it. I'm gonna pull it off so I can get to the what I was saying hex head as star heads. It's actually a star head. Looks like this, to get the other two out, so the expansion block will come right on out. And we're gonna put this where we don't lose it. I'm world famous for misplacing stuff, so you want to keep all your stuff in a little bucket or in little bags or something, so you can keep track of everything you take off. Let's see how tight this is. It wasn't tight at all. I got a little bit 1/4 inch turn on it, and they both loose now. So using a little DeWalt, it looks like a 25 to me. That'd be a T25. So I'm gonna take it off and just hand turn them. Yep, coming loose. I would say there wasn't more than 20 pounds torque maybe on that. Now we'll tell you something, you can drop these things, but you don't want to, because you're going to reuse them. Sit that over there. We'll get the other one, and then we're going to see if we can't get this thing out. Because there will be no AC with a restriction. I just woke up this morning and got kind of drug into this, so excuse my looks. Now, it's ready to come out. All right, guys, this is going to be attempt number 3. I don't care what you see on any other videos or whatever. Removing this expansion valve block from this CRV is something else. This is one of the hardest ones I've ever had to pull out, but I have looked at every angle it can possibly come out, and that the angle I have it in right now is about the only way I'm gonna get this sucker out. So look at there. I was gonna try to take some of that foam off of it, but that ain't helping. I may still have to get some off of it, but I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna tug on this thing. We're gonna see what happens. I done got determined now. Uh-oh, look at there. She finally gave. Jeez Louise. All right. Now it should come right out. Wow. Man, let me tell you guys something. That was crazy. Look at it. I think what my problem was this. All this foam they had wrapped around it here. You know, you don't need all that junk, but that's factory. You can see where I was pulling it. I quit pulling on that. I was actually pulling on the whole unit right here. And the reason it was sitting like that, okay, so it was sitting like that in there. And the reason I was coming from this angle, because on this angle, see that? You got more to pull through. So I figured if I could get it across here, then I'd be able to get it out. Now I did use the stud, the original stud to do this, but I suggest you find a bolt. I didn't spend enough time looking for one, but I was careful with this thing. It's still in good shape, but I would suggest getting a bolt if you're gonna try pulling it straight. But I can tell you, you'd be wasting your time. One way this thing's coming out, guys, and that's when it's in there, is out that way. So that way and out, that way and out. So you're pulling that piece out last. I'm gonna take all this junk off. Be able to see our part number. This stuff here was not helping. Tell you, I make these videos, try to help people, you know, but I'll tell you what, this video here is gonna be like real world scenario here. This thing is not easy to get out, I promise you. So anyway, we got her out, and I'm looking in here now to see how it looks up inside there. I'm gonna get my light. That's what you're looking at up in there. You can see where it plugs in, and you got some O-rings in there. So that's where the new one will go, and it will plug into there, tighten down, and Hopefully we'll have no more restriction and have some nice cold AC. Let's go see if I can find this part. I'll post the part number. 2008 Honda CRV expansion valve for the AC. All right, guys, here's just a few tools you're gonna need before you even start this job. I always suggest keeping an O-ring kit handy, some O-ring removal tools, a 10mm deep, and you can also use a 10mm shallow, and then of course some pliers and some good old grips to pull that sucker out. Alrighty, you are going to need to use a little pick tool to get these O-rings out down here, because you cannot get your hands up in there to grab them. It'll be easier to push on, but I definitely had to have a special little hook to go in there and retrieve them. Now the new expansion valve, it will come with O-rings. It has a little O-ring kit in it somewhere, maybe in the box, but I did see O-rings came with it. But it's always good to keep an extra O-ring kit, so that if you need extras, or if you cut one or something like that, you've got it covered. So that's the O-ring kit that came with this part number. It's a CarQuest number. It's T39331, and that's T39331. T39331. So that's the one you're going to need for this 2008 CRV. We're going to get this baby ready to go in. I'm fixing to pop the new O-rings down there. Put some new O-rings on the other part, our line set, and we'll be ready. Also, make sure you match your O-rings up, because they have 4 different styles in here. So you want to make sure that you're putting the right O-rings back where they go, or you'll be taking it back off, and we don't want to have to do that. So you got one little bitty small one that's going to go on this outside high side line right there. Now I also put a little bit of PAG oil, just a little bit on my O-rings. Kind of leave them up real good. And that'll help you when you go to stab that expansion block back on. It's always a good idea. Just use PAG. Here's a good little tip, because obviously you can't get your hand in there to slide the O-ring on, because they're really snug. So what I do is I take a 10mm socket, okay, and the screwdriver through it, I put through the line that I'm going to put the O-ring on. I take the O-ring and just gently put it over the socket. Like I said, I put a little PAG oil on it. And once you got it right there, you just go down in here, stick your screwdriver to the hole. You're not jamming it up in there or anything, just stick it in the hole. And then I'm going to run my socket up with the O-ring to the fitting I want the O-ring to go over. Then I just take my hands in here and I just make like what I call a transfer over. And if you do it right, it'll go right on first time. But that's the tip for the day. Now we have our O-rings installed where the expansion block goes. Now I'm replacing the ones on the lines, the end of the lines. Here's the old ones. See the black? Don't look like they're very worn, but let me tell you something. When you're doing something like this, you don't want to have to go back. Use the new O-rings. If you drop one, you don't use my little screwdriver method, then you better have a kit or be ready to go buy some new O-rings. If you drop one up in there, it's gone. That's up in your dash. So anyway, I'm gonna pop these on and then we'll see how hard it is to work the new one in. Hopefully it's a lot easier than taking the old one out, for sure. Now, remember we were talking about this stud earlier, and I was telling you guys, do not mess it up. Do not get it all boogered up, because you want to reuse it. But the new one came with a new rod. Not a new nut, but a new rod. So I guess they kind of expect you to mess this up, trying to pull this booger out. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. If you don't have any AC experience, very little mechanical experience, bring this to a certified AC tech. It's this is a very difficult block to pull out of this firewall, as y'all could see me working on it, but you know. Anyway, I would rate it scale 1 to 10, about a 6.5 of just trying to work that thing out without tearing anything up. Okay, got the new one ready. I wanted to show you guys, make sure that you got it going in the correct way. You can look at the old one you pulled out of the car. This is the one I pulled out, came out this way. So I want to make sure I'm putting it back in that way. So it's going to go in and to an angle, in to an angle, and then hopefully she'll pop right back in, seal up, and that'll be nice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my stud and I'm gonna go ahead and put it back on like I had it when we pulled it out, remember? And all that's gonna do is help me hold this thing while I try to work it back in place. Okay. It'd be nice if they made the hole where it just go right in, wouldn't it? You would think that's what they would do anyway. But no, let's make it so hard that you get frustrated. Tell you what, as close as I have got it yet. There she goes. I think I got it started. Look at that. See, I got that corner in now. It just feels like it's wedged too tight there though. It's starting to wiggle now. That's ridiculous. There she goes. Look at there. Now we're getting close. It's fixing to pop in. I just want to make sure you guys can see that. Let's zoom in. See there? Man, I'm telling you, this thing is ridiculous. How tight it is. If they'd have just made the cutout just a hair bigger, then you got plenty of room on your plate there, your line plate. Like I say, I think they do all this on purpose, so you bring it back to the dealer. At least that's what my wife says. We're so close. Uh-oh, uh-oh, we're in now. Okay. Let's get her lined up here. We're in the hole. We're not coming back out, I can promise you that. I've got to get it to pull forward so I can get it straight in there. Still acting a little funny right there. There we go. That's in. Whew. Now all I have to do is push it in. Can you guys see that? Yep. So here we go. It should just kind of suck in, and you should feel it pop up on the mow rings perfect. There she went. Let's see. All right, let's put that baby back on. Remember, this is where we're gonna need our 10-inch deep socket. The one that the kids like to run off with. Pretty much this whole job you can do with a 10 millimeter, basically. 10 millimeter shallow and a 10 millimeter deep. That's what you're gonna need. Alrighty. We have a charge. And my pressures are reading perfect now. So we're right around 40 on the low and 250 on the high. Before the restriction, the high was pegged over and had nothing on the low. So it was in a bad restriction. So this repair fixed it. Like I say, guys, replacing an expansion block on one of these babies, it ain't nothing easy about it. Hardest part about the job is getting this out of the firewall. You'd think they'd make that hole just a quarter of an inch bigger. It would be perfect. But anyway, the customer's going to be really pleased because the AC is just blowing ice cold. And I'm going to wrap this up and put the caps back on and bring it back to the customer. Thank you for watching. Ready to go do some relic hunting now.